Good morning. It's Thursday, the 24th of March, and you are watching Ireland AM.
You certainly
for the next
are.
3 hours.
We can walk and talk, aren't we? Amazing television presenters. Over the next 3 hours, we've got comedians, cookery, and cogging. You don't use that in Dublin, do you?
What's that?
Cheating.
What?
Cogging. When you're copying someone's homework.
Oh, yes.
That's
Is that what it's called? Cogging?
Cogging.
Cheating.
Cogging.
Yeah. From Lord of the Rings to Queen of the Panto. Later we'll be catching up with award-winning actor Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen.
Lovely man.
Lovely man.
Darling.
Were you darling all over the place?
Darling.
Of course he was. Plus, she's on a mission to teach you how to get the menopause.
I didn't know you could be taught to get the menopause.
You can get the menopause.
Could I even get it?
He's in the middle of it, everybody.
There we go. I'm having a hot flush as we speak.
She's going to teach you how to get the menopause and enjoy it. Comedian Anne Gildea is dropping by.
And as artificial intelligence becomes more widespread, we discuss what impact it's having on schools and colleges. Actually, really interesting, this.
Yes, that's the cogging.
Yeah, that's the cogging.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we find out, oh, Lord, I'm sorry. Good morning, we can do this. If Trump will be mounting his next presidential bid from behind bars, surely there is a law whereby if you're convicted of something...
You can't be going as president. Anyway, that's all coming up over the next 3 hours, but now it's time for our first news of the morning with Henna Murphy.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning. NASA Horgan has been suspended from the Green Party parliamentary party for 15 months after going against the government in a Dáil vote on the eviction ban. It's the third time the Dublin Central TD has voted against the government, and this time it's resulted in her losing the party whip and her Oireachtas committee positions. Yesterday evening, the government fended off an attempt to overturn its decision to end the eviction ban. There were 83 votes with the coalition and 68 against. The Labour Party, meanwhile, has said it plans to table a motion of no confidence in the government over the matter. The recruitment website Indeed is axing 2,200 jobs globally, around 15% of its workforce. Indeed employs 1,400 people in Ireland, but it's not known at this stage how many Irish employees will be impacted. Our economics correspondent Paul Colgan has more.
This is the latest in the wave of tech layoffs. Indeed is a massive employment website, but it too is now moving to reduce its own numbers. Staff at its headquarters in Dublin were informed that 2,200 people, or 15% of its global workforce, is to be let go. In a note to staff, the company said the cuts come from nearly every team, function, level and region at Indeed and Indeed Flex. The specific decisions on who and where to cut were extremely difficult, but they were made with great care. Workers losing their jobs outside Ireland and a number of other countries were told within the hour whether their job was gone or not. Due to employment legislation here, Irish staff will have to wait. This follows similar announcements by others in the tech space recently. Facebook's parent company Meta said last week it was cutting 10,000 roles, its second round of redundancies this year. Amazon earlier this week made a similar announcement where 9,000 jobs are to go. Paul Colgan, Virgin Media News.
Meanwhile, almost 250 jobs are to go in Waterford with the closure of a toy and board game manufacturer. Cartamundi, which manufactures Monopoly, Twister, Connect4 and Scrabble, is to close its Waterford plant after 45 years. The company is blaming a decline in demand along with inflation and overcapacity for the move. The Taoiseach is attending a gathering of European leaders in Brussels today. The war in Ukraine will be the central focus of the two-day European Council summit, where leaders will discuss fresh measures to assist Kyiv, including ammunition supplies. Yesterday, Ukraine's president was back on the front lines as Russia launched a series of strikes on Ukrainian cities. Volodymyr Zelensky posted a video showing what he said was a Russian missile slamming into an apartment building in Zaporizhia. Ukrainian authorities claimed one person had been killed and 25 were hospitalized in the attack, including 2 children. Russia denied the claims. And Gwyneth Paltrow's attorney has criticised the placement of a camera during the second day of a trial, accusing the actress of injuring a fellow skier when she slammed into him in Utah in 2016. Terry Sanderson is suing her for $300,000 in damages, claiming Paltrow's recklessness left him with physical injuries and brain damage, while she's countersuing for $1 million plus attorney fees, claiming he skied into her. The positioning of an Associated Press camera had reportedly been approved by a court official, but the following complaint from Poltro's attorney Steve Owens led to it being removed.
The camera that I referenced was a violation of the decorum order. That's the second violation in 2 days. Directly, still photographer, directly on my client's face, already transmitted nationally. So I'm mad.
And now Ger has a first look at all your morning sport.
Thanks, Anna, and good morning. Evan Ferguson scored his first goal for the Republic of Ireland as they warmed up for next week's Euro qualifier with France with a win against Latvia last night. They won 3-2 at the Aviva Stadium.
Johnson almost had a goal of his own in the closing stages, but a well-timed block prevented Ireland from getting a fourth. Latvia offered little else as Ireland came away with a win, but a much improved performance will be needed.
Ireland are targeting a top 3 finish in the Women's Six Nations. They'll be looking to build on their series in Japan and the awarding of professional contracts when they face Wales this weekend.
The Ireland rugby squad training ahead of a landmark Six Nations campaign. This is their first Six Nations since the introduction of fully professional contracts in the 15s game.
There's great momentum in the squad after, the contracts is huge for us. The Japan campaign was massive as well. Like, people learned so much from that experience, just even in terms of how to prepare for an international. All those little things, having the experience and the time to work on those skills off of the pitch, they're all huge factors in the success of a campaign.
But Ireland are without dual players like Bevan Parsons, Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe and Lucy Mulhall as they're with the Sevens squad.
Honestly, I think, look, we're all women's players, so I think having success in both departments, Sevens and 15s, is the ultimate goal. Sometimes it is hard to have that in and out, and obviously we want everybody that's best on pitch all the time, but we're well able to deal with those changes. I think it shows that we're building a lot of depth as well, that we can have that competitive edge.
Irish rugby is in a good place following the double Grand Slam success last weekend. So will that be inspiration for this squad?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, yes. But I think at the same time, we're in a different place. For our journey, we're only recently contracts have come in. And we're building at the moment. I think the men have done brilliant and they are definitely an inspiration. We see them in here around all the time. And I think to build to where they are would definitely be a goal for us. I think this campaign is going to be so much different to previous because obviously so much has built in the last year with Irish women's rugby. So yeah, top 3 is definitely our goal and hopefully we'll get there.
Ireland's opener is against Wales on Saturday. Bernard O'Toole, Virgin Media Sport.
And there's live Six Nations action on Virgin Media 2 this weekend as England take on Scotland. Paddy Carr has resigned as Donegal manager after just 5 months in the job. Donegal are bottom of Division 1 with 3 points heading into the final round of the Allianz Football League this weekend. That's your sport for now. We'll have more for you at 7:30. Now let's take a look at the weather.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Sunny spells and showers this morning. Highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees in fresh and gusty southerly winds with the potential for wave overtopping around high tide. Across the day into this afternoon will continue to be rainy. Some of the showers will be heavy or prolonged with a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Top temperatures of 9 to 10 degrees. And finally, tonight will be breezy with showers mainly becoming confined to coasts later. Lowest temperatures of 5 or 6 degrees in fresh to strong and gusty southwest winds. And that's your weather outlook.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
Now, on the way, why does Donald Trump think he will be arrested and will it happen? Well, Muireann McKellan will have the latest after the break.
Welcome back. Now, you may know that earlier this week, Donald Trump tried to shock the world, as he always does, by claiming that he will be arrested.
And here with the latest is US correspondent with the Sunday Business Post, Muireann McKellen. Good morning to you, Muireann. What is the latest? Because Trump did say he was going to be arrested on Tuesday. It didn't happen. Is it likely that he will be arrested this week?
Well, like a lot of things Donald Trump says, it doesn't necessarily mean it's grounded in fact or of any kind. No, he wasn't arrested on Tuesday. He's unlikely to be arrested this week or indeed possibly next week or the week after. What's going on at the moment is, and I think it's really important to make the distinction, Donald Trump at the moment is the subject of 4 separate criminal investigations and 2 civil investigations, all of which could be potentially pretty serious and pretty damaging for him. The investigation that he was talking about, where he said his imminent arrest was happening on Tuesday, is the one that's happening in New York. This is brought by the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is bringing this case on the foot of the Stormy Daniels hush money payment, which was made, as I remember, in October 2016. It was made about 2 weeks before the election, and the context for this was the Access Hollywood tape had just come out of Donald Trump boasting about how he could sexually assault women with impunity because he was a star and they let him do it. Now, the last thing he needed after that was to have a porn actress come out and say she'd had an affair with him, and it had gone on over a year, according to her. There was also another affair that had been buried with a Playboy model. So anyway, it was decided between the Gills and the Riggs and all the panic that she should be paid off. So she was paid $130,000 in hush money. This payment was made by Trump's then lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, who took out a loan on his own house to make the payment. Now, Donald Trump subsequently paid him back and paid him about $400,000 in total because he passed it off as a legal fee, as money for legal fees paid, which meant Michael Cohen would have had to pay tax on it. So it was certainly falsifying business records.
So hold on, Stormy Daniels, who had to sleep with Donald Trump, got 150, and Michael Cohen, for shutting her up, got 400,000. There we go, lads. That's how the world works.
Well, you know what? The reason he got about 400,000 was he had the 130 recompense to him, but because it was listed as fees for legal services, he would have had to pay tax on that. So the extra bit on top was to cover the tax that he would have to pay for this deceit. And it was a deceit. And business records were falsified by the looks of things. Now, the case that Alvin Bragg is bringing is a bit complicated because it's a minor crime to falsify business records. About 120 people have been prosecuted by Alvin Bragg so far on this. Most of them have been convicted or they pleaded guilty. It's a routine sort of bread and butter case, as they call it in Manhattan. But the problem for Donald Trump and indeed for Alvin Bragg is that for this to be upgraded to a felony crime, which would receive a sentence of 1 to 4 years in prison, Alvin Bragg has to prove that Donald Trump falsified records to commit another crime. Now, what was that other crime? It was to do with campaign finance, apparently. It was so that Stormy Daniels wouldn't go to the press before the 2016 election and wouldn't damage his chances of winning. So that seems to be the crime, but we don't know. And indeed, it's a tricky case whether or not a New York district attorney can, in fact, bring a case that would involve a federal violation or whether he's limited to state violations. It may be also that he's talking about Trump having done some kind of tax write-off with the payment. But the main thing is we don't know nearly as much as everybody pretends we know, including Donald Trump. The grand jury was supposed to meet yesterday, I beg your pardon, Wednesday. They're supposed to meet again today. They may make a decision on whether or not to indict Trump. If they do, at some point, he would be arraigned following the normal process. He would be fingerprinted. He would have a mugshot taken. He apparently wants to do this perp walk where you're paraded in front of journalists. But none of that may happen, or may happen in a very background controlled way. And indeed, it's at the end of the day, it's up to Alvin Bragg to decide, even if an indictment is returned, whether or not he wants to try and prosecute this case. There's a long, long way to go. A more concerning case for Trump is happening in Washington, D.C. at the moment, where Jack Smith, the special counsel, was just given permission by the Court of Appeals to basically violate the attorney-client privilege with Donald Trump's other lawyer. Donald Trump has about 20 different lawyers on the go at the moment, Evan Corcoran, and this is to do with the theft of classified documents, or the alleged theft of classified documents from the White House. Now, it's really unusual in any case to have a lawyer compelled to testify against his client, but the judge involved found that the special counsel had shown that Donald Trump had, on the face of it, appeared to have used his lawyer to commit a crime. Now, that's to me a lot more serious at the moment than what's happening in New York, but they're all serious. There's also a case going on in Georgia with Fannie Willis, who's prosecuting him for attempting to strong-arm the Secretary of State there into throwing the state in the 2020
to overturn
election.
the result. Yeah, to overturn the result.
Exactly, and that gets a several-year prison sentence. And then, of course, the special counsel in Washington, D.C., Jack Smith, very, very tough guy, is also investigating Trump's role in January 6th to see whether or not he did incite a riot. You've also got a civil action going on into his businesses with the New York Attorney General. And then we've got the sexual battery case coming up with E. Jean Carroll, which is scheduled to start in April. Now, that is a presidential candidate who has 6 different legal actions in various stages against him, 4 of which are criminal actions. It's not good, but in the meantime, Donald Trump is portraying it that he is a victim. He's being persecuted. He's raised about $1.5 million in the last 24 hours on the back of this alleged immediate indictment and arrest. So he's using it to fundraise.
It's just incredible. Can I ask you, before we get on to his supporters, what does the Republican Party, what's the mood in the Republican Party now about all this?
Oh, you know, I think they would just love him to go away. And they're in it, he puts them in a terrible position, because if the supporters all rally round him, and 35% of the base are thereabouts is hardcore MAGA, if they rally round, he's going to win the nomination. He would be a candidate who could be facing or in the middle of 4 or 5 different trials. It's like everything with Donald Trump, it's unprecedented. They would love a different candidate. They would love a Ron DeSantis or a Mike Pompeo or anyone except Trump. But at the moment, it looks as though these criminal trials, which he's portraying as persecutions, are going to rally his base around him. He's calling for protests. Kevin McCarthy and other Republicans are saying, no, don't protest, because it sounded like Trump was calling for another January 6th sort of turnout. So I think this is very volatile. It's very unpredictable. But Donald Trump is not going away anytime soon, one way or the other.
The party of Abraham Lincoln. Isn't it beautiful? Marion, just in relation to all of this, because I know here in Ireland we had a situation where our Taoiseach at the time, Leo Varadkar, was under possible looking at with the DPP over the leaking of confidential documents. This was during COVID. We have got a former president of the United States of America under all of these investigations. There's no issue with him going forward for office if he gets indicted on anything, if anything actually happens, if he gets a parking ticket. Like, is there not an issue with him being president?
No, it's up to the voters. There's nothing to stop him running for president. And he did say, I was at the CPAC conference in Maryland a week or 2 ago, and he made it very clear there during an impromptu press gaggle with us, and he said that he will absolutely continue to run if he's indicted, that it certainly won't stop him. Now, I think that the worst case scenario for the Republicans is that he is indicted, and, you know, let's say this happens in New York, even next week. As I say, it could take a couple of weeks for the arraignment. A trial may not start for another year. So this will be hanging over them, galvanizing his base. But then it could help him win the primary, but it certainly won't help him win the election, because moderates, independents, even Democrats who are fed up with Joe Biden, they're not going to vote for more drama of this kind. You may remember when Hillary Clinton, when James Comey came back in October 2016, he said, we're reopening the investigation into her emails. Her numbers plummeted because the voters were going, oh God, no, we don't need this in a president. So we will see. But, you know, people have counted Donald Trump out so many times. After January 6th, everybody thought he was finished. And now he's way ahead of his nearest rival, Ron DeSantis, by about 20 points in the polls. But it's 300 days or thereabouts to the first Republican primary. A lot can happen in 300 days, especially when you're talking about Donald Trump.
Can we talk about Ron DeSantis there? Because Ron DeSantis was asked for comment on all this. He didn't really say much about it. But, I mean, as you say...
he said enough.
What did he say?
He said enough. What he said was that he wouldn't really know, I'm paraphrasing now, he said he couldn't really speak to paying off money to a porn star that he had an affair with, because it's not something he'd ever done. So he managed to sort of land Donald Trump in it and emphasise that Donald Trump had an affair with a porn star, but then he said, well, at the same time, I don't think he should be prosecuted. A lot of people don't think he should be prosecuted for this because the Federal Elections Commission decided not to prosecute him. When Merrick Garland came in January 2021, he didn't proceed with the case again, but Michael Cohen got a 3-year prison sentence. That was his lawyer for just arranging the payment. And a lot of people are saying, well, why should he get a 3-year sentence and Donald Trump get nothing? You know, but as I say, this is a tricky case. It's trickier than it looks. And we'll see how it proceeds.
Fair play for keeping all the hair there, Marion, with everything that's going on, not pulling it out. Correspondent for the Sunday Business Post live in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers, Marion.
It's just bonkers, isn't it?
I've given up Twitter and I've given up American news television channels.
Because of
and
it.
I'm a much calmer person.
Did you see his tweet? No. Your all-time favourite president, me, is seeing this witch hunt. It's the biggest witch hunt in your country. Your all-time favourite president, me. That's what he tweeted.
Just don't pay attention to it. It's lovely. After the break, could it revolutionise education or has it made cogging in college the new norm? We're going to be discussing the impact of AI and things like ChatGPT, which we will give you a refresher course on in education. That's coming up after the break.
Now, ChatGPT is a form of artificial intelligence that educators the world over are a bit worried about at the moment. What exactly is it and why are they worried?
Here to discuss is education editor with the Irish Independent, Catherine Donnelly, Professor Alan Smeaton from DCU School of Computing, and USI Vice President for Academic Affairs, Clodagh McGivern. Thank you both, all three of you. I'm used to two. I'm a ChatGPT. I'm just used to one thing. Alan, you were here in January and you were so good as to give us a rundown of what the hell it is. Can you give us a reminder for everyone? Because it's like people are saying it now in a much more casual way. People are chatting about it.
It's not a reminder, it's an update.
Because
it's changed, it's moved on. Because about a week ago, they introduced another version of ChatGPT 3 called ChatGPT 4. And it's bigger, it merges text and images together, it combines them, and it produces even higher quality output.
So what is it, though? What is it?
You take all the words ever written by anybody, spoken by anybody on the internet, you put them into a big bowl of soup, you turn them around, right? And it's like an alphabet soup of everything that anybody has ever said. And then what you can do is you can go in there and you can pull out threads of it, and it comes out with a coherence that it's if it was originally spoken by a person or written on the internet by a person.
Now, this is not Siri or Alexa. This is a much more advanced version of this.
It's not even those on steroids. It's those on another dimension completely. Completely.
But is it because I use ChatGPT with we used it. My fella got on, he got it. And we generated his best man speech. Or not his best man speech, his groom speech, just to see what would happen. He put in Irish, put in his age, put in this, and it was just like, oh, be gara and be gone. Let's all get drunk and have a shillelagh and a sing-song. You know what I mean? So it wasn't passable as it being from a real human person.
Yeah.
Is it passable now?
Yeah, there's a new term being coined within it, another new thing called prompt engineering, which is about what you tell it, you want it to generate for you. Prompt engineering. So we know about electrical engineers and chemical engineers and construction engineers. There's now prompt engineers. So it's the way you phrase it.
Wow.
But, like, Catherine, students can create whole essays about this. Like, so you need to turn in an essay. You can go on to this and the whole essay is written for you. How can we combat this? How can we stop this where we're not, like, students are doing no work, they just type in something and a whole essay is written for them?
Well, the genie's out of the bottle, so there's no going back. So it's about, educating students, it's part of the life, not only that they're now confronting in terms of their coursework, but they're going to be going out into a world where AI, will be all around them. They'll be going to workplaces that will be depending on AI for certain functions. So they actually just need to know about it. So I think the response from higher education will be one where they're going to seek to just educate students and help them, support them in incorporating AI into their
But are they learning, though? Are they learning? If they're just doing this, they're not learning what they should be learning?
Yeah, no, if they were asked to write an essay and they go home and they put in a question, say, write me an essay on whatever the topic may be, and they get the 1,000 words back, and they hand that in and say, there's my essay, and they pretend that it's their own work. But obviously, they're learning nothing there. But if they use AI as part of a process to learn themselves, and they use it to generate, the flow of information, and they declare how they're using it, that would be perhaps deemed to be acceptable in a final assessment.
OK, I need to go back to your list on what professors are going to deem acceptable. But Clodagh, from a student's perspective, you work with students all of the time. This would seem, we're hearing about mental health, the pressures of students, all this kind of stuff. It's nothing new. We've all went to college in the past and there's no such thing as AI. What's going on? Is it being used a lot?
Well, firstly, there is actually no evidence of how many students are using it.
Yeah.
These are from the same institutions that say that there's only been 1,500 cases of academic misconduct since 2019. So to go and say that every single student is now using AI, so I think, obviously it's out there. Students have been curious about it because of all of the frenzy that's been in the media. So obviously you're going to, be drawn to it. But I know after COVID, a lot of institutions updated their academic integrity policies, and that's been communicated to students. So I think that a lot of people have been using it as a study tool and, generation essays, and then, using that to kind of mould it into something better. Because the thing is, though, it generates answers, but it's not always 100% accurate. It does fudge facts.
So that's interesting. Alan, you're nodding away there, because if you're much like you would be reading something and copying and pasting it from an article online, from Wikipedia, whatever, this is the same thing, but it comes up in front of you, and then you, as you said, Clodagh, have to mould it. Is that something you're seeing happening? Is it something that people, like with a bibliograph at the end of the thing, be like, use ChatGPT, and then this is what I made of it?
You did a great phrase there when they fudge it. And that's because these systems come along and they have what we call hallucinations. They get things wrong, right? And technical term is a hallucination.
Alan,
it is just an incorrect fact. So yes, you're responsible for if you choose to use one of those tools to help you to put together the text that goes into your submission.
OK.
But the ChatGPT, when it goes into its mode of generate 5,000-word essay or 1,000-word essay, that's just one of the AI tools that's available. It happens to be the one that's getting all the media coverage. But there's 4 or 5 or 6 other ones which you can use in your day-to-day work to help you learn from the content that you read.
How do you download it? You don't?
You just go clickety-click.
But I thought you had to download the ChatGPT, no?
No, it's a web page. You sign up.
Web page now.
It takes...
You have to sign up.
You have to sign up
That's
for
all
it.
what you do,
right,
like we signed up for it.
Yeah, and it took you a minute.
And is it free?
It's free at the moment for the basement bargain entry level. But of course, these companies want to and need to make money. So then there's the offer that you'll get the super version for $20 a month or the super duper version for $40 a month.
But you don't see this as the end of education, that people are never going to, like Clodagh, you're kind of going, now lads, calm down.
I think it's actually a really exciting time for education. I think, there's been a lot of talk about reverting back to the traditional forms of assessment, and we know that that's actually not meaningful assessment. You're just regurgitating information onto a page and forgetting about it. So I think if we incorporate AI, we can actually, develop on those skills that we should be bringing into the workplace. So, let AI generate a text and then, critically analyse the statements that are in the text, argue for and against the statements. There's a lot more meaningful assessment that can come from this.
But Catherine, you're nodding. But you see, everyone's nodding there, and I'm thinking, if I was in college, this is an easy way for me just to sail through, and I don't have to do much work.
But
Catherine?
No, because I think the way it seems to be heading is, I'm learning about this as well as we speak. But the way it seems to be heading is that yes, you would use AI as a reference tool, the same way I would have used an encyclopedia, back in the day. But that
encyclopedia can't write an essay for you.
But the information is there, and you could, in theory, you could just copy 3 paragraphs from it. And which,
It's upping the game for the level and the sophistication and the complexity of your assessment. It makes it more difficult when you use these advanced tools, and therefore the learning outcome for a student is so much better. It's higher level stuff.
Really?
But only if they declare it, I suppose.
Okay, so say the student is doing. Is there any signs that it has been totally just taken from this ChatGPT and it's given over? Is there any signs within it that a teacher can spot, no?
It's based on knowing the student and going, where did that come from?
Suddenly, a student who wasn't delivering any goods is suddenly coming up with these A+.
But it's just, when all these new things come along and we all start fanning ourselves as though it's the end of civilization, it's lovely to see 3 people who are actively involved and going, calm down, lads. This is a really good thing.
Yeah, and I think 3 months ago there was a sense of panic in higher education, and there was back November, December, early January, sort of rabbit in the headlight stuff. But now it has moved on in that short space of time. It has moved on, and people are the system seems to be taking ownership of it and say, OK, what are we going to do? And policies are being developed.
Because even like the way I kind of have started looking at it is, say 100 years ago, whenever people were doing education, they were going to the library looking at books. Google came out, you were able to condense that quicker time frame. Whenever Word came out with spell check, people freaked out and thought people wouldn't be able to spell anymore. The calculator,
which we can't. Come on,
the calculator was invented in 1967, I think, and it wasn't in state exams until 1985. So, I think we just have to advance with technology, and I think it's a really exciting time.
Minister for calming down, I can see it in your future. I like this going. We actually asked ChatGPT during this very segment to briefly outline what impact it thought it would have on education. And here is what ChatGPT said. Generative AI has the potential to impact college education in several ways, such as personalised learning, automated grading, curriculum development, virtual teaching assistants, and improved reading capabilities. The impact will depend on how the technology is used and implemented. Oh, I got implemented wrong. ChatGPT didn't spell it right. It's basically standing up for itself. It's saying exactly what you said.
I love your speaking voice there, Muireann. Your speaking voice changed.
I was trying to do it was my phone voice and also my computer voice. If you need a fake voice for anything,
you have a future.
You have a future in broadcasting.
I can be theory.
But even in that ChatGPT thing it generated, there's a flaw with that, because it hasn't been able to take account of what's happened in the last 3 months. So there's a part of that which says that educational institutions are now embracing. Because everything it knows about from the past.
Yeah.
And one of the great examples,
I love this.
one of the great examples of that rabbit in the headlight reaction is Australian universities in December.
Yes.
What did they do?
Didn't they just ban?
They banned
it straight away
without knowing what really the potential had on it for students.
Aussies.
It's really interesting. I think we'll be talking about this again. I can't wait, Claude, until we do Minister for Calming Down. I'm going to start that right now because I absolutely love it. So, education editor with the Irish Independent, Catherine Donnelly, Professor Alan Smeaton, who makes us understand everything on the show. Thank you so much, from the DCU School of Computing, and USI Vice President for Academic Affairs, Claude McGivern. Thank you all 3 for being here this morning.
It is fascinating. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
After the break, a fella who doesn't need ChatGPT.
No.
Anton Savage. He knows everything
it's all up
already.
here.
We'll talk to you in a minute.
That was
great.
Thanks for staying with us. Now joining us to round up the major stories in this morning's papers is News Talk's Anton Savage. Good morning to you, Anton. The government is going to face a no-confidence vote in it. After winning yesterday, they're moving on now. Labour has brought this motion of no confidence in the government, not just on a motion, in the government.
They had that we knew they were facing that even after. We've known that for a few days.
Yeah, winning last night is a technically accurate term, but I'm not sure it's how the government would view where they find themselves sitting. The issue with last night was whether or not the Sinn Féin motion to extend the
eviction ban beyond
would that pass or would it not?
March 31st.
Everybody knows going into this, it ain't going to pass. It is extraordinarily rare for opposition motions to actually succeed because the numbers, of course, stack up against them. In a bit of political cleverness, the government padded out their majority slightly by doing deals with the regional independent group.
What did they give them? What did they offer them that made them stick and vote with them?
All stuff that they were going to do anyway, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And it's inconsequential to the eviction ban. It was issues to do with
grants to do with derelict houses.
I asked Anton.
Sorry, I'm just saying.
It's great.
I just want to get through this.
Sorry,
because we did it yesterday. I'm like, let's move on because we need to talk about Nessa.
Okay, so what she said. So they did that deal, but what's clever about that is that it packs out the numbers. Why do you want the numbers packed out? Because from a political perspective, if you go on a way wafer-thin majority. At the next election, you knock on the doors and people say, if you, Alan, had changed your vote, this whole thing would have been different. Whereas if you pack the majority out, you have some kind of cover in numbers. A couple of the TDs decided, even with the cover in numbers, it wasn't sufficient. So one in particular, that being Nasa Harrigan, who has voted against the Green Party whip. And of course, what that means is the Green Party agree en masse, we're going this way. She says, I'm not, I'm going the other way. She's now suspended for 15 months, loses her roles off the committee. Now, there'll be a way up for her because she will say in her constituency, it might have been
a star.
It might have been electoral poison to have voted with the government, and therefore it's worth this. Not a great outcome from the government's perspective, and it forces them to pin their colours to their mast on something that's politically unpopular. So at the doorsteps, people would say, you not only did you not extend the ban, you voted against a motion that would have saved us from homelessness. That's pretty tough. And now there's a Labour Party motion of no confidence to hammer them again on this.
Right. Again, doesn't really, as I found out, it's not going to mean anything. No one seems to want a general election.
No.
Not even Sinn Féin seem to want a general election. So this is going to go on. And what we're going to see is the fallout of the eviction ban, because we all know that notices to quit were in place.
Yeah.
And now, they're going to come into place on March 31st.
True, and there was a big political stumble in this that happened several months ago, which was the creation of the eviction ban in the first place, because it is extremely difficult in public policy and political terms to undo a policy once you've put it in. It is always worth remembering the reason we all pay income tax was Britain needed to fund the Napoleonic campaign in 1804, and it was a temporary measure. 210 years ago, we're still paying for it. So the same kind of thing, once you put something in like this, even if it doesn't work, which it didn't, because we have an increase in the numbers of homelessness, it's very difficult to withdraw it or to wind it back.
And now you've got us all thinking about the USC. You brought us back 210 years to the USC.
This is something that's going to rumble on. Let's go to France.
I think it's bad here. Let's talk about France.
Like massive protests all over France because President Macron wants to raise the pension age.
Yeah, not wishing to make light of something which is obviously a significant issue and a significant issue in terms of social cohesion in France, but the French do protest very well.
They do it very well.
Yes, they do.
And they were due one. Do you know it's kind of like cyclical with them?
The French take to the streets with some speed, and fair play to them. The French know what their rights are and they're not shy in demanding them. So we've seen situations where petrol stations have been running out of fuel because of blockades. We've seen situations where bins are now overflowing.
The rubbish in Paris is like... The site, it's...
Correct. And not only are the bins overflowing because they're not getting picked up, people are now setting fire to the full bins. So you have a dumpster fire all the way through Paris. It is a shambles. Why is the issue there? Well, this is one of those things where maths is something of a problem.
Yeah.
Because for the last 100 and something years, more or less since they lost that Napoleonic campaign, France has had a pension problem, which is there are more people retiring than there are people to pay their pensions. It's very difficult to square that circle. And what Emmanuel Macron is saying is, look, lads, unless we want to go bankrupt, you can't retire at 62, you'll need to retire at 64. Which in one way is actually better off than they were when all this problem started. Because when the problem started to get highlighted in the 1990s about the pension age in France, back then you popped your clogs when you were about 78, if you're in France. Now you pop your clogs at about 83. So even if the retirement age does go up, you're still retired for longer because you're living longer. This is not, as they used to say, buttering any parsnips with the French.
No, they're not happy
at all.
Not a bit, and they regard it as betrayal. And because Macron is in a minority position in terms of his parliamentary support, he's having to use special clauses to force this through the French legislature, and it is going down like the proverbial...
Because he's using the constitution, they're not going to get to vote on this, and he is going to suffer because of this. But you can see yesterday, like, France is on fire. It is crazy. We don't get a chance to talk about discussing things on public transport, but stay around, we might later on.
Thanks very much.
Stay around. We might, just hang around.
Like Anton knows public. He never goes on public. He's got his motorbike, not a hope in hell.
I got a flat tyre, maybe home on a bus.
Oh,
really? Did you get one coming in?
Yeah.
Someone help
I'm
Anton.
off to fix it in the car park.
We'll be back with you in Ireland Day very shortly. Did you actually get it?
I did, yeah.
Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now our next guest rose to fame as part of the comedic girl band, the Nulas.
Since then, she's met some very famous people and toured in many international countries. Welcome, comedian and writer Anne Gildea. Good morning.
Morning, Anne.
Thanks for having me on.
And just speaking of that, the Nulas. I mean, such fond memories of the Nulas. You must have great memories of the time with the girls.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. And, it was wonderful, touring everywhere.
I do think people forget how big you were sometimes. Like, you were you were really, really big. Like, I remember the billboards and all that kind of stuff, but playing for people like Prince Andrew.
Oh yeah, I was talking. Your researcher was asking me who was the most famous person you met, and I don't know where Prince Andrew came from. I think it's because the most fuss was made of him before we met him. Because when you meet royalty, the etiquette people come in
yes.
and they go, okay, so when he comes along, you don't speak till you're spoken to, and you don't offer the hand unless he offer the hand.
I think he should have offered the hand a little bit less. Prince Andrew, shouldn't he?
No, you know what I mean?
Was he sweating at the time, man? Was he sweating?
He did when I offered him the hand. No, but here's the thing: there's this whole etiquette, and you're there going, "Oh my God," and then this really, I found him really personable. It was almost like him coming in going, "Oh, how are you doing?" I mean,
well, he wasn't speaking like that, was he?
No, he wasn't. But he was. I chose my judge of character. I thought he was lovely. He was so natural. And sorry, I'm not here. I feel like Fergie sent me in to go, "Come on, big up Andrew, poor Andrew, help Andrew, get back in the royal family." That's why I'm here
We'll
today.
start the campaign here on Ireland AM this morning.
He's going to be appearing in a menopause show to show he likes women of all ages. I mean, it's surreal, though, when your job becomes something like that. When you're at the was it
Royal
Albert Hall?
Oh, yeah. We just got to a fantastic level where we were just in endless, brilliant situations, meeting amazing people and flying all around the world.
And is there any chance, everyone seems to be getting back together these days. The S Club, Bewitched, everybody.
But
another Nuala's
No, I
return.
don't think so, because Sue, it was me and Sue who kept it going through all those years, and we worked with a bunch of fantastic third Nualas, we always call them.
Yeah.
And she's now doing the Dirtbirds with Sinead Cuthbert.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely flying. So I don't think so. I mean, we have to...
Yeah.
Have to move on.
We've hung the Nualas up.
Yeah.
We've hung the Nualas up, that's it. But in all the things that you've done, I think, because we were looking at, your career, and I think one of the roles that really stuck with me, and I don't know how you got into the mindset of doing it.
Look at her face.
I just don't know. Woman with baby and Father Ted. Now, how do you prepare for preparation
for a woman with baby?
That's what Aaron asked me, because I have that on my thing, and I was in Father Ted. I read for a brilliant part of The Nun, and then the lovely late Anya O'Connor got that part, and I was sure when I did the read-through, the reading for the part, I thought, I've definitely got that. So then my consolation prize, I was Woman with Baby. I was just saying, it was just like... Hello, I've come to the wrong place. I mean, it was literally, that was my line. There's nothing you could do with it.
And in the credits was Woman with Baby.
I know, I've been there, yeah.
And did it take time for you to... What am I... Is it my baby? Am I babysitting?
I remember, I was all day down there in Innis Simon where they were shooting Father Ted. And then I remember I was at the end of the day, because it was in the dark. So it was the end of the day when I came in to shoot my scene. And I always remember Declan Lowry, the director, when I did the line first, he went, "I feel you're not happy."
You're like, yeah, most women with babies.
Yeah,
I've been here for 9 hours.
I've been here all day to go, I think this is the wrong place.
Been here for 9 hours sitting in a trailer.
I think so, darling. I trained,
I'm RADA trained.
Well done. I like that. Because, sometimes you forget how small things can be, that people have all worked with each other and you've all come across. Because you would have worked with Ardal O'Hanlon.
Well, I went to college with Ardal and Barry Murphy, and my brother was a year ahead of us. We went to college together. So I was actually saying that to your researcher, that when I was shooting that, it was the Christmas special, I really saw, it was so interesting having known Ardal from when we were 18, to see how people can, when you break through to that other level, and you could see, wow, this is really going to change your whole life.
Yeah.
This isn't just a fantastic job. It's like, yourself in the media, you get certain things and then you suddenly you're on that other level.
Right.
You know?
And it was a time when if you hadn't been in Father Ted, it was like, I think you should give it up now.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
no,
Like you had to get into Father Ted.
Well,
Did everybody have to be in Father Ted, Muireann?
Huh?
Did everybody have to be in Father
Loads of
Ted?
people were. When I look at Father Ted now, I'm like, I know all those people who've gone into loads of things.
All the comics were in Father Ted.
Yeah. Like it was amazing.
Yeah.
And when you watch it now,
and
you're
it's
like...
so funny. You know.
But Dermot was so brilliant about that, wasn't he, as well? And like embracing all the Irish comedians and bringing them into the show.
Like when the Nula started really taking off, I remember Dermot coming along to see us. We were playing in the IFI for some reason, and he invited us to lunch. And we went round to his house and he cooked us pasta, and we just sat and chatted about comedy and where, you know, he was advising us about how, you know, we could modulate our careers. And he was just sheerly interested, you know. He was such a beautiful man.
And it's amazing when his sons come in. They're so lovely. Like it's just amazing what they are. You say that you know, he was giving and he was giving you advice what to do, and now that's exactly what you're doing. I don't think Dermot would have been able to do this because you're giving advice on the menopause and how to enjoy
That is the most wonderful segue, Muireann. I can see why you are where you are.
Thank you. Had to get to it. You're touring with this show. Second tour that you're doing with this show.
Because I wrote the show during lockdown. And it was actually my boyfriend came up with the title because I was trying to write a funny show about midlife, and he went, "You need to focus it in." So he gave me that title. And initially I was thinking, "Oh, menopause." Oh. And then I started reading about it, and I realised all I didn't know. I realised I just didn't know my own body, didn't know what was going on. Because it's not just the symptoms, it's the long-term implications of the depletion of the hormones that happens during menopause. And just being aware of the, you know, what's going on.
We haven't a clue. I don't think people have a clue.
So many women are opening, and more discussion on this now than ever before.
Well, it's amazing because during lockdown, it was very serendipitous that I chose that topic because then Davina McCall, she's actually in Dublin today because there's a National Menopause Summit today in the Mansion House. I'm going to go in there later. She did her documentary.
Quick, somebody send a camera. Davina McCall's in town.
But what's the show about? Because it has become something that, you know, we're all talking about now, which is great because I didn't have a clue when I started learning. I'm like, all right, that's great that happens to me. So what's the show about?
So my initial thing was to write a show about midlife, but I focused it into that theme of menopause. And then I took this definition of menopause that it's reverse puberty. So then I go right back to the whole experience of evolving as a woman in Ireland in the 70s and 80s. Like, I'm in my 50s now, I know, hard to believe. And,
fabulous, looking fabulous.
And, you know, the attitude was very much like you're walking around in this thing called a body, but the less you have to do with it, the better. You know, we were just growing up, you know.
It was a skin suit. You didn't need to know where it was
like
made,
everything
100%.
evolved as a surprise. You know, you were 11 or 12. Oh, surprise, first boobs. 12, 13, surprise, first period. 49, 50, surprise, first moustache. You know, nobody told us.
And can I ask you then, with a title like this for your tour, is it all women in the audience or are you getting men?
I was in Tala last weekend and there was 2 men there who booked the tickets and brought their wives and they loved it. I generally would get between 2 and 6 men in the audience.
2 and 6.
2 and 6. 2 and 6.
You could make up that demographic. That could be you. Are you the 2 or are you the 6?
Men love it because it's just also kind of the secret life of women.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it is.
And the conversations I have with the women after.
Well, there were some things I was asking here this morning that I was asking Muireann, and I'm not going to repeat it. But
he asked what a moon cup was.
I hadn't a clue what a moon cup was.
I was talking about moon cups in the show because I kind of talk about the evolution of sanitary products from when we were, you know, kids, from when I was a child in the 70s. And a woman told me after the show, she said, "Oh, don't talk to me about moon cups." She said, "My daughters have me murdered trying to get me to use a moon cup because it's environmentally friendly."
Yeah.
And she said, I said to them, "Explain to me what is a moon cup." And they described a moon cup to her. And she said, "Oh, for God's sake, moon cup. I'd need the Sam Maguire cup."
Which is... That's an amazing thing.
Because it's funny, because it's true.
It is
because
true. She's had the children. She knows.
She's had the children.
Yeah. By the way, Moon Cup is a sanitary product. It's a sanitary product for ladies.
AnneGildea.com is where everybody can find out the information.
I'm in Bantir this weekend.
Oh, I love Bantir.
Yeah, I've never been to Bantir. I'm looking forward to going. I'm in the Glen Theatre.
Where's Bantir?
North Cork.
Oh,
North
okay.
Cork, and then in Monaghan, I'm in Drogheda, in Louth, and the
you can find it all, How to Get the Menopause, and enjoy it at AnneGildea.com/shows. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Much.
Cheers. Now, thumbs up, everybody. We're going to be chatting about the importance of context in the world of online messaging when it comes to texts, DMs, and emails, because it's a minefield, it turns out.
It certainly is. Don't do that to anybody. Columnist Charlotte Ivers joins us along with editor-in-chief of emojipedia.org, Keith Broney, to discuss digital etiquette in our text messages. I didn't know it even existed. There we go. But that's me anyway. But can we start with you, Charlotte? And you recently wrote this article on digital etiquette. So what made you write it? What was the scenario that made you write this article?
I was having a glass of wine with a friend, and she suddenly started telling me this horror story. She said, "Let me tell you this awful thing that happened to me at work the other day." She'd been working for weeks on this big document, sent it round, a bunch of colleagues, lots of people copied in, and then her boss replied about 11 at night, and he replied to everyone on chain, and he just said, "Who wrote this, ... and nothing else." And my friend just had a complete breakdown about it. She stayed up all night worrying, am I going to get fired? Is there something offensive in this report even? Is the data completely wrong? And then the next morning, she barreled into his office and said, "What have I done wrong?" And he looked so confused. And he said, "No, I was just trying to make sure that no one was overworked. I was making sure that we were all splitting the work fairly." And I realised that essentially, because her boss is a couple of decades older than her and she's about my age, they just had completely different rules of etiquette for the way you communicate online. And those cross wires had caused this major upset. And I thought, OK, I'm going to write down some of those rules as I see them.
And I have to say, I put this online yesterday and some of the responses have been pretty wild about it. But in all fairness, Charlotte, when it comes to ... which we use in a dramatic effect when it's an ellipses, we say it, you can understand where you'd be like, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble.
And especially when you just said, who wrote this, ... Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen. But there is an issue, as you went on to discover, with something that I love, which is a full stop.
Yes, so this is one that I think has split opinion more than any other of the things that I put forward in this column. But it really is such a generational divide. I would say people under the age of about 35, if you send a text message, particularly a one-word text message, which says, OK, full stop, or right, full stop, that is a way of expressing either anger or extreme disappointment. So if I said, "I'm really sorry, I can't make it to dinner tonight anymore," and you said, "OK," ! Or "OK," with nothing after, that means that's all good. "OK, full stop" probably means, right, you've done this a million times, I'm fed up with you, I want to register my discontent. I think it's sort of like putting a pregnant pause, saying, "OK." And that is really what people try and get across with a full stop. But then my mum will send me messages which say, "OK, full stop." And I'll think she's furious with me. And then I'll phone her and I'll say, "Oh, is everything OK?" And she'll say, "Yeah, of course it is." And
But why? Surely if you're writing a sentence and you put a full stop, it's good grammar, no? Like, why would you be furious that your mother put a full stop? I just don't get it. Am I too old?
No, she thinks that her mother is furious
because
it is a stop
why do you think your mother's furious that she puts a full stop?
So I know she isn't. I think this is part of the problem, because obviously I need to adapt my communication to my mother, who's 30 or so years older than me, and in return, she adapts hers to me. So, for example, she now would never call me out of the blue without texting to say first that there's nothing going wrong and don't need to worry, because I would always worry about getting a call out of the blue from her. If she texts saying, "Can you call me?" she says, just for a catch up. Don't worry, no one's died. And I sort of make the same adaptations the other way. I'm not going to get annoyed with someone for putting a full stop in a message because I know that's not what they mean. But still, even when you read it, as someone who usually texts people under the age of 40-ish, you end up having this little jolt of going, oh, have I annoyed them?
What's happening here? Let's bring emojis into this whole thing. Keith, it's lovely to have you here.
Great to be
You
here.
know all, emojipedia.org, you know all about them. Emojis have become part of it's a lexicon now. You know, it's part of how we communicate. But it's all changed because, you know, when you do a crying, laughing face now, that's ironic. Like, what does that mean? That used to be the most popular emoji, right?
And it still is, but it's long since past its peak.
Says who?
Says overwhelming data from a variety of different social media platforms and messaging platforms. The peak was around summer 2019, but over the years, people have kind of viewed it as a bit passé, and especially younger generations have started going, this is a little cringe, isn't it? It's a bit too ubiquitous.
Oh,
let's find other ways
sake.
to laugh, and that's why you see the loudly crying face with these two massive waterfall-like tears being used as a really ironic laughter, or the skull emoji be used as a form of laughter.
But how is that laughter?
They're dead laughing.
Exactly. It's a
What does
metaphorical...
dead laughing
They're
mean?
dead from laughing. They're laughing so much, they're dead.
It's so hilarious. It's such a bombastic response, really playful, hyperbolic. I'm dying laughing, I'm dead turns into skull emoji or skull
And
emoji.
Can you tell me why people find it passive-aggressive if you give the thumb sign?
So the thumbs up emoji has been largely associated a very quick, low-effort response. And this, is largely born out of it being initially, a default response option on Facebook Messenger. It's a kind of one button done. And there's no other additional content in that message to kind of leverage a follow-up response. So you're basically saying, we're done here. And look, in reality, a thumbs up is absolutely fine because you're seeing, my body posture, my facial expression. Exactly. Context is so key. And when you're just flashing one of these in a digital message, you're basically saying, I didn't think that your message merited a longer response than this. And that's how people begin to view it as passive-aggressive.
So I did ask, because there was a lot of people on, I put this up on Instagram yesterday, and they're like, oh, this woke young generation. No. It was everything from 19-year-olds to 69-year-olds saying it is so passive-aggressive. So I asked, is this passive-aggressive? 10% say it's passive-aggressive. 64% said it's perfectly friendly. And 25% said that's just a way to end the conversation because you don't want to talk to people anymore, right?
Sure, but even that way to end the conversation. We've been doing that for nearly a decade now with the thumbs up emoji. Everyone kind of knows what we're doing, and therefore it kind of starts to come across as rude.
Okay. Can I just ask you, what is, when you're saying that it's changing all the time, what is the most popular emoji at the moment then?
At the moment is still the crying laughing face, but it is certainly on the decline. I mean, by and large, the positive smiley faces are the most popular category. People like to use emojis to provide a bit of positivity and playfulness in their texting and social media posts. But it's always changing. We see certain things rise and fall in the emoji keyboard all the time. New ones get incredibly popular. The salute is incredibly popular. The melting face now, both of those are very new, are incredibly popular. So it really ebbs and flows.
God.
It's fascinating. I actually love it. I didn't realise how much I get into it until I did the thing on Instagram yesterday. It has been amazing. Keith Broney, who is editor-in-chief of emojipedia.org. You can check that out. And also, Charlotte Ivory's loved your columns in the Sunday Times at the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
now,
guys.
come back to us after the break. Edward Hayden never uses an emoji because he's too past it. He doesn't need to. But he's making orange and mango and passion fruit cheesecake in the kitchen. We'll see in a few minutes.
Welcome back to Ireland AM. Edward Hayden, what are you making for us this morning?
Now, I am making you a gorgeous mango and passion fruit cheesecake. So this is really, really gorgeous. And I'm using the Irish yogurt Clonakilty just to show you that you can use the fruit yogurt for something other than your breakfast. Sometimes we kind of buy them, so it's just to show you the versatility of it. Now, I have a few bits and pieces ready to go here. So what I've got here is I've just got some biscuits which I've crushed down. Okay, so I've just popped those in the food processor, yeah? And I like there to be a little bit of textural interest, so I normally do a little bit of crunch there at the end. So just pop those in.
Textural interest.
There
That's
you have
a new
it.
one for me.
Love a bit of crunch.
Now, into that, I'm just going to put some melted butter. So give that a nice little mix around just to coat all of that up. Now, whilst I'm using digestive biscuits this morning, you might decide to use ginger nuts, which will give you another flavour. That mango and ginger would work really complementarily. Yeah. It would be absolutely lovely. So give that a nice little mix around.
His lovely posh bowl.
And you know what? He uses it from everything from salad to dessert.
There you have it. I'm really trying to set out a lovely standard.
Yes.
Now, give that a nice little mix around just like that. Now, my little top tip when I'm making a cheesecake or a key lime pie or a banoffee is to build it straight onto the cake stand. So I've got my lovely cake stand here. Top tip that you will regret, make sure that you have it
closed.
Yeah. OK, which needs to be open coming out. So pop all of that in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mash that down. And I've got my potato masher here and give that a nice little mash down just like so. Now, again, if I had loads of time, I would just perfect that. So at home, people can just go around it with a spoon and get that nicely perfected.
You won't see it anyway. It doesn't matter really.
Oh, listen, when you cut the layer, look at the one I have prepared earlier. It's perfect.
Oh, perfect.
Now, here I've got an orange. And I'm going to put that in with some cream cheese. I'm going to put the juice of an orange. This is for our topping. And I'm just going to cream those together just lightly. Now, again, it's really just to open up the kind of the cheese and just loosen it down. So just for a second is all you need to do that. Now, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off. And I've got a combination here. So I've got some of this lovely 0% fat Greek-style yoghurt. It's the Mango and Passionfruit from Irish Yogurt, Clonakilty. I'm going to put in the full tub, but they've got a whole range of flavours, so you can flavour around the cheesecake as suits yourself. I'm also going to put in some cream into that, and I've brought extra whipped cream as well, just to have. So I've lightly whipped the cream, and that's really important. OK, just like so. Now, with my spatula, I'll just give that a little preliminary mix, just like so. I'm going to then pop it back onto the mixer, or you can see that it's quite loose at the minute. Why does it
go back onto the mixer?
Just to kind of get any of the kind of the cream cheese that's at the bottom of the bowl and any on the whisk there. Now, so there we have it, just like so. Just pop it back on for a second. Then I've got a block of orange jelly. Do you remember the orange jelly your granny used to have in the glass Pyrex jug? Yeah. So I've got one block of that, which I've melted with a couple of spoons of water. And I'm literally just going to pour that in. And that's your setting agent, just like so. Mind my clothes. It's a setting agent, just like so. And that's poured in, and then 10 seconds, 20 seconds, give that a little mix around.
Oh, God. Oh, the lovely shirt.
Mind everyone's clothes.
The lovely shirt.
Now, there we have it, just like so. Now, this will be really nice and loose, and it's kind of the cream cheese then, the jelly that will melt that, or will set that. So, pop it in just like so. Pour it straight in on top of your cheesecake. And now do you see what I mean about the benefit of it being on the platter? So it's all ready to go. People will be having maybe communions or confirmations at home, and this would be an ideal dessert to have.
That was so
I've left
satisfying
mine set. I made mine late yesterday evening.
Into the fridge for how long?
Put it into the fridge. I would always say overnight. You know, you would want to be giving it overnight. And then I've got another little bit of the yoghurt, which I'm just going to put on the top, just to embellish it. And again, I'd spend a little bit more time garnishing this up. And then I've got
sugar,
some...
so she can't have any. And she's literally going, this is terrible.
Muireann, I'll give you over the tub of yoghurt. You can have that.
There you go. Give us a tub of yoghurt.
There you have it. There's your breakfast.
Clonakilty yogurt.
I'm not joking, that might actually be a placebo.
And then there we've got it, just like so. And then I've got some lovely berries. And I worked with a lady years ago, and she used to say that berries on top of anything make it look really attractive. So that's your gorgeous cheesecake. So if you were going to the communion or the confirmation, instead of hosting it, you could bring something like this around with you as well. So that's really nice cheesecake.
Can we laugh some berries on top of Alan? Makes anything attractive. Me and you will be sorted. Put some berries on our head.
And he has a lovely spatula after our spatula yesterday.
Yes, poor Catherine Leyden. What she is trying to do to the good living, God-fearing woman.
I don't know what he's trying to do to her. Give her a
my God. A good living, God-fearing woman, and you're trying to encourage her to be doing a bit of spanking.
If you don't know what we're talking about, him and his spatula yesterday, you're unbelievable.
It was Tommy Bow.
In a disciplinary sense, you didn't get half enough of it, so I hope she gave you a good belt of it when the cameras were finished rolling. That's all I have to say.
Oh.
Isn't that lovely?
Oh, delicious.
The flavour of the mango is gorgeous, and the passion fruit's nice and sharp.
This is working for me.
Thank you so much for that, Edward.
You're very welcome.
Edward, God, I don't want to be off this. We've got more Ireland AM to come very shortly. I'm actually well jealous. It's not even funny.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Delicious.
Talk to you in a minute.
See you in a few minutes. is now, earlier on we were talking about a poll in the UK that half of commuters avoid using public transport because fears over poor hygiene and cleanliness. And we asked you for your comments on it. And Lil says, I was on the Lewis recently and a man was standing very close behind me. He sneezed right over my head and didn't even apologise. And this is your fear. This is...
It's not my fear.
No,
What
it's just
happens?
like,
You're
you're just going, this is disgusting.
I'm not even joking. Edward Hayden hearing that. He's over there in the corner going, he's never come back to the studio in the thoughts of thinking about it.
But somebody, like, cover your... Like, imagine just going over somebody and they're like, oh, anyway.
What about Georgie's one?
Go on.
Yesterday on the train.
Oh, my God, this is...
And I believe this. I fully believe this. A woman boarded, sat in front of me, and she started... I'm going to look at Edward's face. And she started... cutting her nails onto the seat. Yeah, he's gone, you okay, Edward? They were practically flying around. Can you think of this, Edward? They were flying around the carriage. Edward's like,
no,
God.
but not her fingernails, her toenails. No, it's not. It wasn't her toenails. It wasn't her toenails.
But, like, do you know the way people just think that there's someone else that are like, well, there's someone paid to do this job to clean up your nails?
That is disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Well, it's disgusting to start cutting your nails on a train in front of somebody.
But how people feel like, you know, when you're in a cinema and people throw their popcorn all over the place because, you know, someone's there to clean. No, clean it up.
The popcorn could fall. You don't.
It could, but you know when you see it wrecked and thrown everywhere, do you know?
Now, we were talking about emojis. I was looking at my Instagram there and I was looking at what's the emoji I send most? It's not. It's the smiley face with the little hearts in the eyes.
Oh,
I'm such a nice person.
Do you love everyone?
I just love everybody. But I was looking at messages I sent to people, and that's the one, or a love heart, or the smiley face with the little. Now I was going to say that's old hat now, and you shouldn't be doing that.
There's a whole lot of loving going.
But Martha agrees with what we were saying earlier on. I think the thumbs up emoji is so passive aggressive. I don't get this. Imagine trying to have a proper conversation with somebody, and they send you a thumbs up. People need to use their words instead.
But Martha, if they've sent the thumbs up, they're done with the conversation.
Yeah,
they're
it's
like, I agree, Grant, thank you.
Thank you, we're moving on.
But it's been nice. We're done now. Because someone started texting with me last week, and I was like, I can't be dealing with this. I could have gone on for 2 hours, so I rang them. And I was like, okay, let's go, let's get it done. It was done in 2 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
But why didn't you just say...
No, I need to get an answer. I need to count. Anyway, Helen, I'm in my mid-60s and I use and love emojis. We were criticised for not keeping up with technology, and now that we have, it's not cool. Live and let live. Listen, young people know what's cool. We don't have to care what's going on with them. But I did think it was interesting that on my Instagram it was people of all ages that thought it was passive-aggressive, not just young people.
I can't understand it. But then earlier on we were saying that the laughing emoji is like so passé now. It's the skull with the laughing thing. Dead. You're dead inside laughing. That's what the young cool people are doing. Dead inside laughing.
He's dead.
I don't get it. I actually don't get it. It is so crazy. But do you know what? I actually do think it is probably a little lazy to put the emojis in. Instead of finishing a conversation and saying something nice, you actually just put in the smiley face or the thumbs up or whatever.
But on social media, an awful lot of the time, you don't want to get into a conversation. You just want to say, I'm acknowledging something that you have done. So that's what I think about Instagram stories. Anyway.
There's somebody who sends a lot of this. Do you know the prayer sign?
Praying for you. I can see why, my love. He's throwing his love hearts all over the place. Pray for him. Pray for him.
Now, after the break, we're going to see what happened when I sat down with the one and only award-winning actress, Ian McKellen. That's coming up after the break.
As you do. As you do.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, our next guest is a Golden Globe winner, actor known for his scene-stealing performances in Lord of the Rings, The Da Vinci Code and Beauty and the Beast. And I caught up with the legend that is Sir Ian McKellen to hear about his latest role. Ian, it's so lovely to talk to you here in Dublin this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a joy to be here.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, when you say Ian McKellen, Shakespeare, movie actor, and people might say panto, but panto was your first love, and it's how you found your love of stage.
Yes. And I dare say it's true in Dublin, isn't it, that perhaps the first theatre you'll ever see, live theatre, that makes an impact is a pantomime.
Yeah.
And it makes an impact because, A, you're going out with your family, siblings, parents, uncles, aunts, grannies,
The whole family.
And all laughing at the same things and enjoying the same things and doing it next to other families.
Well, I was lucky enough to see Mother Goose in London, and I just absolutely adored it. I've done panto here for nearly 30 years, and I sort of said I loved it because of what it was. It was the good old traditional panto.
Yes, I'm glad you thought that. And I said to Jonathan Harvey, who writes Coronation Street,
yeah,
I said, don't make me just a man in a frock. That's not in itself funny. Create a sort of dame who might be sitting in the Rover's Return of an evening, you know, shouting the answer. Somebody who might be a magistrate in her spare time. A member of the town's women's guild, you know, yes. Somebody in the community, and that's what he's come up with. So you'll have noticed that although I wear, I think there are 11 different costumes.
There's amazing costumes in it, and you look fabulous.
But, thank you. But many of them are just clothes rather than outrageous frocks, you know.
Right.
And I feel that always with the handbag, of course.
Yeah. And do you feel like when you get into the frock, as you say, that Mother Goose comes alive?
There's a moment when Tom, my helper and dresser on this occasion, puts me into the frock and we get the tights on. Ooh, they're trouble, aren't they? Oh, boys.
Luckily, I don't have to wear tights.
Don't envy the girls wearing tights. You get the tights on. Oh, and then you get the knickers on, and then you get the bra on, and everything else on. And then I put the frock. He pulls the frock. I step into the frock, and I stand in front of the mirror every day. And as it goes up over the boobs and does up, and we put the pearl necklace on, and there she is.
And do you do the lips every day?
I do the lips every day, and I say, "How are you, Mother Goose?" I love it. I'm so sentimental about it as an audience, but also as a performer.
And I love the way you said that you wanted your dame to be a certain way. Do you see that the way the world is going at the moment about will the dame have to die off because of political correctness and all this? What do you think?
I did wonder whether, with current feelings, that perhaps some people might object to a man in a frock. But this man in the frock is an actor playing a part.
Yeah. Mm.
I've played all sorts of characters.
You certainly have.
And a couple of them have been women. So I'm not being disrespectful to women, certainly not. She's the strongest woman in the story, and she, to my money, is the nicest person at the show. So I'm very pro. My dame is very pro women.
Yes, very much so.
And sticking up for them. So I hope no one would take it amiss. There is nothing innately funny to me about a man in a frock. But I think back to Norman Evans and Les Dawson and people, those sort of, they made real women.
Yeah.
They weren't mocking women. Yeah, they were real women.
The move of the boob.
But of course, it is theatre.
Yeah.
So I am playing Ian McKellen as well as Mother Goose. And if that sounds complicated, that's the beauty of theatre. Because theatre can be complicated, and it's no problem. No problem. Everybody knows it's Ian McKellen talking about himself, even though he's wearing a wig and a frock. It's complicated, but that's what makes theatre so rich.
And I love the thing about panto as well, and especially this show with you in it, that you can break that fourth wall because you do have the skit about going into Shakespeare and going into golf and all that, like Lord of the Rings, and just for a brief moment, and then you're back into the show.
Yeah.
That's really cleverly done.
But isn't that, I know, but it's something you couldn't do in television.
No.
You couldn't do it in film. It's just in live theatre, you can do anything. And I think that's what's the excitement about pantomime. Anything goes. It's like a Christmas pudding. There may be a sixpence in there may be a cherry, there may be a nut, you don't know what, a date.
And is it the joy of an audience? I mean, when you look out into the audience and that thrill you get by looking into a live audience.
Well,
that you don't get in TV or you don't get in the movies.
And in a pantomime, not only is the audience there, I think, more than any other entertainment, they are the star of the show.
Yeah.
If they're not having
fun,
a really good time, if they're not having fun, if they're not working hard to have a good time, then the show doesn't work. And it's our responsibility on stage to get everyone worked up and excited and fulfilled.
You're such a hard worker and grafter, and I love that you still get that thrill to do that. And I love the quote that somebody asked you, do you ever get nervous on stage? And you said, I get nervous when I'm not on stage.
That's true. Yes. I'm very much at home on stage, and when I was growing up, a rather nervous child, for a number of reasons, I think, and shy, to discover that on stage, I wasn't anything like that. I could be bold and express myself because I felt safe. And why did I feel safe? Not because I was standing up in front of a lot of strangers with a light on me, drawing attention to myself, but because the thing had been rehearsed. There was a script.
Yeah.
I knew what was going to happen next, which is not true of life, after all. So I've held on to that security, and no, if I'm feeling, if I'm not feeling very well physically, or I'm a bit upset or a bit out of sorts, I get on stage and Dr. Theatre takes over, guides me through.
Well, I have to tell everybody who's looking in this morning that it's going to be, you have to come and see Mother Goose because you are just, as I said to you before we went film this, I said, I could not take my eyes off you on stage.
Oh,
you were just electrifying.
Well, there's
and
a
the
lot
whole
to look
show.
at, isn't
there's
there?
a whole show, the costumes, the characters.
And don't we have a fantastic
You do.
cast?
You have a fantastic
the
cast.
support. I mean, one shouldn't call them support. I mean, they're stalwarts, and of course I normally work with drama people. These are song and dance people. And God,
well,
it's a thrill to
I
work
won't
with.
give too much away, but there's singing, you sing, you dance, and you practically get naked. So I'm going to leave it at that. Come and see Mother Goose. Ian, thank you so much. It was
Lovely
a
to
pleasure.
see you, Alan.
Thank you. It was a
And
pleasure.
I want to come and see you.
You can come next year. I'll let you know what we're doing.
Simon Sausage.
Sammy Sausage?
Sammy Sausage.
There we go. Muireann says, that's it, change it. No longer Sammy Sausage. If Ian McKellen says it's Simon Sausage, that's it.
It's Simon. I'm sorry.
It's Simon Sausage from now on.
Your previous 30 years of your life have just been, they're gone.
Ian McKellen has wiped it from memory.
Everybody, we unveil Simon Sausage. Amazing.
That's my character name in Panto, in case you don't know. Now, tickets for Mother Goose are available on Bord Gais, energytheatre.ie, and you may have spotted in the news that comedian John Bishop unfortunately had to pull out of the run in Dublin for Mother Goose on compassionate grounds. But Ian is just, and the whole time, it's just fantastic. He's 83 years of age.
Yeah, and you chatted with him for ages. Like, you had a lot of time, and you were there last night as well.
Yeah, and he's just such a nice man.
It's kind of amazing because we feel like we know him because of Graham Norton. You know,
Yes,
when he goes
because
on Graham
the-
Norton,
yeah,
we all
he's
feel
just-
like we
yeah.
know Ian McKellen.
Mm.
And he's just so incredibly funny. And does he have that sort of presence when he walks into a room?
Does, but I like, in fairness, yesterday he was very tired. They just come in, they're doing the show. They had to get the stand-in in, and he was just gave everything. He really did. Do you know what he's doing tomorrow? He's going to open Linda Martin's Animal Sanctuary for her tomorrow out in the Knoll. Before he goes to the show. It's like, he comes to Dublin and he does things like that. I know, how random.
Just unexpected.
Now, there you go. So,
Simon Sausages will also be making an appearance, Linda, if that's all right with
No,
you.
I won't.
Simon Sausages unveiled in the Knoll tomorrow.
That's the type of thing he does.
Lovely man.
Lovely man.
Still to come, Brian Lloyd is here with his verdict on the latest movie and streaming releases.
And we're learning about the ancient art of henna. We'll see you in a few minutes. Look at that.
Hello. Now, professional henna artist Ritu Jan is here to tell us all about the wonderful world of henna.
And Ritu has been working on a beautiful design for us throughout the morning on our lovely model, Jazz. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
That looks beautiful. So explain the significance of this particular design.
So this is called as the mandala designs. So I have put a lot of different mini elephants to show the intricacy of the designs.
Look at the interest. They're little
There we
mini
go. Oh,
elephants.
look, we're seeing now.
Fabulous. There you go.
Beautiful.
Tell
Might
us.
just go there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous. So well, the elephant is a design we know from Indian culture anyway. Yeah.
Yes, it's very, it's symbolized it's a very cultural thing, I would say.
Yeah. How long did that take you so far?
20 minutes.
20 minutes to do all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
It does look very, very... What exactly is the henna made of? What is a henna tattoo?
So the henna is derived from the leaves of the plant, which is called as a Lawsonia enormis. And it is 100% natural. So which is ground, which is, you know, this kind of very fine powder.
Yeah.
And then I make a smooth paste out of it, and which consists water, sugar, and different kind of essential oils. So I'd add sometimes tea tree oil, clove oil, or eucalyptus oil. So it, depending, whatever is available with me.
And then the method to do it, because you know with tattoos, that's puncturing the skin with ink.
Yes, no, that's a different thing.
Yeah. So
it's
are you painting?
Yes, it's a painting. It's a you know, it's a kind of a hard work, you know.
It's really hard because there's such small spaces.
Exactly.
And when you look, like when I think of seeing an awful lot of henna, it's watching things and Indian weddings, and like they're so intricate up the whole arm. How long can that take? And is there a time that you do it before a wedding?
So usually people come, like I do it for my friends and family members.
Yeah.
So I do it for at least 2 days in advance so that they get a proper color. It starts from orange color and it gets darker with time. So from orange to brown and then black color as well. So it depends, like you need to follow the aftercare instructions very properly.
And how did the tradition of getting henna start? Where did it come from?
So I think it's an ancient culture, I would say, in India, and it symbolized the good wealth and
so
you know,
good symbolized good wealth,
good health, and wealth as well. Yes, good health and wealth and prosperity. So you know, the people say the deeper the darker the henna, the deeper would be the love between the couple. So.
Oh, right.
Right.
Oh, God, the pressure. Can you imagine? Imagine if it stayed orange.
How dark is your henna?
You'd be getting out the Sharpie going, come on, let's make it work.
Just ask
Just
you that how deep is your color?
How deep?
Was.
It's like, how deep is your love?
Yeah.
And these are the actual, that you put them on with, is it? So
yes.
It's basically, you just squeeze it out and it's like, it's like
so,
a paint.
For example, I'm doing it right now.
I would have that all over the place if I was doing that.
When did you know that you were good at this?
Yeah.
I think in my school grades, like in my school
Would you have
time,
done it at school?
Oh, as a pastime, yes. In my extracurricular, you know.
Because the hand has to be very steady.
Exactly.
Like where the parents going, you can be a surgeon. Do you know what I mean? That's a steady hand.
Right.
It's so clear. Are you all right? Look at him, he's off.
I'm off. I see how it's done, yeah.
And what sort of, like, is henna done all the time? You know, I'm just going to get henna, it's a Friday night, I'm heading out, I'm going to have some henna, or is it for culturally appropriate occasions?
No, it's not. It's definitely there's a specific significance for the Indian culture.
Yeah.
But I think everybody can get it done. So it's very popular for hens parties, for birthday parties, for weddings, festival season like Diwali and Karwa Chauth.
Yeah, Diwali.
So,
well, how would you feel, though? Because I suppose there is an awful lot about cultural appropriation in relation to, you know, white people going to other areas of the globe and going, mine, I'm going to do that now. Do you think that it's cultural appropriation if I decide to have henna?
No, it's a form of art, you know. It's a temporary tattoo, basically. And I personally say to people, like, for example, if somebody can't get the permanent tattoos, they can always get the temporary tattoo because it's going to last for only 15-20 days.
So that honour, you will last on your hand for about 15-20 days.
15-20 days.
It will just gradually fade away.
Oh, yes.
I do remember friends of mine when they were 16 getting tramp stamps, and I bet you they wish that it had been henna and it could have faded away over.
What's a tramp stamp?
There, a tattoo along your bum.
Okay.
You know what a tramp stamp is. It's unbelievable. So where you do hen party, you do all sorts of things. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram or Facebook.
Instagram or Facebook at Henna by or J.
Ritu Jain.
And that took 20 minutes.
That took 20 minutes.
That's so fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so
and
much
showing
for
us.
having
What's
me.
always the ones that you're kind of asked to do?
Sorry?
What ones are you asked to do most, we'll say?
So these are the mandala designs. We call this pattern as a mandala as well.
Okay.
So I have different nationality friends and family members.
Yeah.
So they get it done, the small motifs like floral design or sometimes mini elephant or butterflies.
And because it's not like a tattoo, it obviously isn't painful. It's just like somebody painting your hand. Yeah,
I'd say it's very relaxing, actually.
Very relaxing,
to be honest.
yeah. Especially if you're getting it all done. You'd be there for a couple of hours, wouldn't you?
Approximately. If you're getting it done till elbow, it's going to take me 6 to 7 hours.
6 to 7 hours. There you go. Just there, watch Netflix or watch Ireland AM. Getting your henna
There
done.
you go. You'll be absolutely fine.
And you made us our lovely Ireland AM sign here this morning too.
That's a souvenir from my side.
You're so good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rita. We really appreciate that.
Thank you for coming in and getting your henna for us.
Thanks, Jess. Cheers. At Henna by RJ is where you can find it.
Now, coming up next, we've all the latest TV and movie releases reviewed and rated by the one and only Brian Lloyd.
He's after ruining and spoiling John Wick 4 for me. I'm not joking. I'm fit to kill him. We'll talk to you shortly.
See you in a minute.
See you actually. Welcome back. Now, whether you're looking for a canine-obsessed hitman or a profanity-pouting father, we've got you covered. Pouting father?
We certainly have. Here with his view on the latest movie and TV releases is Brian Lloyd. Good morning to Brian.
Hello.
We
you
are
just
going to
did the Anchorman thing. You actually just read that thing off. You're just pouting. You just didn't even question it. That's amazing. Sorry, I didn't realise that was a thing.
I did question it. I hadn't pre-read it, and I just went, pouting? Why is that there? That doesn't make any sense.
I wasn't trying to make you feel bad. It was just
I've done that twice this morning. We're having quite a day.
Okay.
Quite a day, Brian.
That's why she's an award-winning
she won a Gossy,
TV presenter. That's why she's an award-winning TV presenter.
Let's get into what we're meant to do.
We're starting with John Wick 4.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Oh, I love it. So, Brian, tell us who John Wick is and what's the premise of the movies.
So, the first movie was essentially he was a retired assassin. People broke into his house in the middle of the night and killed his dog, and then he went around killing all the people who killed his dog. Very, very simple, really, really straightforward. Was brilliant. It was the thing that made John Wick so good and has really kind of defined the entire series is the fact that the action sequences are so well put together. Like the stunt people that he uses, all the kind of the set pieces, how it's all choreographed and filmed. It's incredible. It's unlike anything that is in cinema at the minute. The closest thing I could compare this to would be Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. But
yeah,
which
this is like a ballet.
So is it just full of those big set pieces?
Yeah, that's it. It's just it's connected like one to the other, to the other, to the other. And it's all real as well. Like there's very, very minimal CGI in it. So when you see, somebody being thrown out a window or whatever, there's actually somebody being thrown out a window. When they do like, the big car chases and all the rest of it, it's real cars. And that is something that you just don't see anymore because you look at like, the Marvel films or any of the DC films.
Oh, yeah.
They're using CGI as much as possible.
It
because
is Mission Impossible and John Wick.
That's it. It's just the two of them that are still kind of doing actual real live stunts. And you can always tell. That's the thing. If you watch enough of these films, you can always tell when it's CGI, when it's real. And John Wick, as a franchise, is the only one that continues to make real action films.
And it has been something of a phenomenon.
Insane.
Like, no one expected it to be this. A lot of people would have been like, this could have been a straight to DVD, but that's not what happened. In this movie, we have Ian McShane. He's been there throughout.
He's been there throughout.
Fantastic character throughout. Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves, they hook up again. That's that lovely Matrix thing. And the director of the movie is a stuntman from the Matrix.
That's right.
So that he's so legit when it comes to stunts. It's amazing. Do we need to have seen the other 3 films?
You would.
Would you?
You would. Now, I would say in the sense of like, it's more just to kind of get because there's a very kind of, and this is what's interesting with John Wick is that it started off very, very simple.
Yeah.
And then it expanded out and made this big, intricate, underworld of like assassins. And there are these hotels called the Continental, and they're all over the place, and they all have these like really big, intricate rules and everything. But yeah, you wouldn't need to have seen the last kind of 3 together. I would recommend.
Then I can't watch it, so.
No, but
because in a Mission Impossible, you can watch it as a standalone.
Not really. No, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Now, I mean, the last one definitely.
Of course you can.
They do all.
I know, but I've seen all the Mission Impossible. I love them.
Yeah.
But I think you could actually, for just a good popcorn movie.
I'll put it to you this way: you'd probably need somebody standing beside you, kind of like
telling you,
giving you cliff notes or whatever.
Because the hotels in it are quite political. There is a hierarchy and a structure to that.
Exactly. So it's more kind of getting what that's about. But in saying that, I would recommend you go see the other three films because they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They are all brilliant. They are all really, really worth their time.
Your ratings for this one?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
That's
Yep, good.
amazing.
Solid.
And in this one, John Wick is doing his thing. And we just must mention the concierge, Lance Reddick.
Lance Reddick, yeah.
Who died last week. And Lance Reddick, people will know from The Wire, from Bosch, from movies like this. A very tall, imposing actor with this amazing voice.
Yeah, he had this like real kind of like stoic kind of presence. He plays like the concierge. He stars next to Ian McShane, who's the manager of the hotel. And he's like concierge and he's really kind of like well put together and all the rest of it. Yeah, real
God
loss
rest him,
stuff.
60 years old is very sad. We're going to move on to another movie. We were talking to Emily Watson earlier on this week. This is the new one set in Kerry, filmed in Donegal. It's called God's Creatures. Let's take a look.
What?
He's different, isn't he? Or an Anton Savage. Do you reckon? Mother knows.
It's exactly like it was back in the day.
So long ago. I wouldn't get hung up on it if I were you.
Try to leave a place only to find it following you. Is Brian in?
There we go. Now, differing opinions on this film on the couch?
Yeah, well, what's it about?
So, Paul Mescal plays this man who returns to his village after being years away in Australia. His mother, Emily Watson, is initially is drawn to him as like, I'm so glad he's home and all the rest of it. Then you start to realise that Paul Mescal's character is kind of manipulating his mother and is sort of trying to has a weird control over her.
Yeah.
Aisling Franciosi, who plays this young woman who lives in the village as well, he previously had a relationship with her before he left. She makes a claim of sexual assault against him. And then there's a trial and all the rest of it, but this is where the film kind of rests on. Emily Watson's character provides an alibi for him that gets him out of the trial. And I think this is the thing about God's Creatures, is that it is sickeningly familiar. I think, everyone watching this probably knows of some story that's happened like this, where it's a small knit community kind of closes ranks around somebody that they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And probably should be, kind of look inward and look at themselves as to why they're protecting a certain person.
And it was written by two people from a village in Kerry who've drawn on experiences from various stories in Kerry. So it is based on things that have kind of an amalgamation of things.
Yeah. You said it was very dark.
Very dark.
Yeah.
It's very hard. What Emily Watson says with her eyes is fascinating. It's amazing what she can do. It's not something you're going to go and lash the popcorn into you, but it is an interesting. What do you give it out of 5?
I mean, okay, the problem what I had, I can't really talk about this film too well because the final act of it really annoyed me, and I don't know, and I just felt like it was a cop-out. It felt like it was just kind of like they just wrote themselves into a corner and then just had to come up with an ending, and it was very much like that.
Yep.
And it wasn't satisfying, and it wasn't wrapped up in a way that I felt convincing, if you know what I kind of. But Emily Watson, fantastic in it. I think you're seeing a different side of Paul Mescal in this. We kind of know him as Connell, or even from After Sun, where he's this sort of like tortured, pained person. In this, he's just a complete scumbag, and he plays it so well.
And Aisling Franciosi is amazing.
So
what are you giving it?
Like 3.5 out of 5.
3.5. Okay, now you nearly passed out when I said I hadn't seen Succession because you said, what?
I don't like. How have you never seen it? It's so good. It's so good.
This is the final season. It has been announced. It's the final season. So we're going to try not to. We've got 10 seconds to talk about Succession. Season 4 is back.
It's back. It's brilliant. I saw the first episode. Absolutely watch it. People watch it for different reasons. Some people watch it for Brian Cox and him, ripping people apart. Some people watch it for Kieran Culkin and how fast and funny he is. Other people watch it for its kind of satire of media and billionaires and the wealth cap. Whatever reason you watch it for, it is just required viewing. I am disgusted in you that you haven't watched it.
I will start
Please
watching
watch
Succession.
it. You'd love it.
I probably would.
You would love it.
Yeah,
you would absolutely
probably
love it. It's like, it's as much as you might think it's like kind of classy and kind of highbrow or whatever, it's really, really, really funny. So it's totally worth it.
Delighted. Have to get the husband into this now.
Do, yeah.
Carl, Succession's next.
Brian Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us. Coming up tomorrow, we're telling you how to protect yourself against the current spike in vomiting bugs.
Plus, he's made it 1/3 of the biggest bands of the 80s. Matt Goss from Bros is joining us.
Join the lads tomorrow from 7 on Ireland AM.
Bye.